Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought today we would talk about the SEAD stuff, because obviously in the files yesterday there was a bunch of vehicles that were added, plus a bunch of radar systems that were added, which looks like they're going to be testing the SEAD in War Thunder. Now remember, when it comes to SEAD, that is the suppression of enemy air defenses, this is basically something which is designed for aircraft to be able to destroy the anti-air which is on the ground, and then they can roll in with the other planes. Anti-air, especially during the Vietnam War, and also just during the Cold War, became very, very good, and therefore the aircraft technology had to match it in order to take it out, and so therefore SEAD missions became a thing. Usually it's known from Vietnam. That's normally the area where people talk about it kind of, I suppose, starting because of stuff like the AGM-45 and stuff like the AGM-78, which was used on vehicles like the F-105G, the good old Thunder Chief, which is another aircraft which is seen as one of the starter vehicles of this kind of SEAD mission project stuff. But the SEAD has been around for quite a long time, even back from World War II. You know, homing in on some radar signals, working out where the stations are, and going to bomb them. Even one of the interesting things in the Battle of Britain, this was one of the key areas that the Germans at least targeted at the start of the Battle of Britain. You may have seen the famous film, the Battle of Britain movie, and you may have seen all the Ju-87s, which in one of the first missions of the Battle of Britain ended up destroying a radar station. That technically would be seen as SEAD, because they saw where the radio station was, decided to bomb it, and then left. That was the whole point of the plan. And, you know, that's a very obvious area to show it. But when it comes to, like, what people know about SEAD, it's usually linked to missiles, and it's also usually linked to American stuff. There are other nations that have got involved in it, but mainly it is the Americans with stuff like the AGM-45, the 78, the 88, and then even others which are more modern. So when it comes to War Thunder, when you look at SEAD and when you have a look at what's kind of in the game, how does it fit? Because right now, in War Thunder, you have a lot of smaller kind of radar systems, which are player-driven in the game. These radar systems don't really have a huge amount of radar emissions, so unless you're using some very, very modern anti-radiation missiles, which is what are used mainly in SEAD missions, then you're not going to be able to hit them. They're just not going to be able to home in, they're not going to be able to do anything. So it looks like what Gaijin are doing, at least right now, is in the air portion of the game. So Air Arcade, Air Realistic, and Air Simulator, they've been slowly but surely adding way more realistic models into the game, not just in, you know, the new stuff, but also the old stuff. So tanks now have pretty much modern stuff. You may have seen stuff like the BTR, which is one of the AA pieces, and I'm guessing with the howitzers, they're probably going to start modernizing them too. So all of the kind of like ground AI is becoming more realistic. And one of the areas that they've been sneaking in over and over and over again is the radar systems. So we have some American radar systems, we have some Soviet radar systems, and then also we have some MLRSs, which they have added to certain maps. So they're trying to modernize all of that area of the game, so the targets that you attack are a lot more kind of aggressive, and also will kind of fight back a bit more compared to what we've seen in the area. And with this data mine, with them adding some kind of SEAD mission for Vietnam, it does seem like what they're doing is they're working on trying to create a scenario where SEAD aircraft can come in and do that kind of job. So don't see it as kind of like a PvP thing. A lot of these things will not be useful in ground forces unless Gaijin decides to put a bunch of AI, radar systems around the place, which at least in my opinion would not be a good idea, but it's something that could be happening in the future. Or what it could be, which is more likely, is they're going to add layers to the air modes. One of the things that has been talked about a lot when it comes to air modes is they haven't really changed that much over the years. A lot of people have complained about this, especially at high tier, and nowadays, with the way that the map rotation filter works, you usually see like 3 maps just cyclical, and you don't really see anything else. And then at high tier, you have the same thing, but then you have the enduring confrontation kind of modes, but most people just play those the same as the standard maps, so nothing really changes. Whereas if they start adding in SEAD missions, if you have vehicles that are able to do them, so ones which can have anti-radiation missiles, whether it's something like an F-105, an F-4, whether it's something like the A-7, then you at least have an additional string to your bow that you can do. Now, one of the problems with a mechanic like this is not every nation is going to get access to it. Pretty much anti-radiation missiles is a pretty new technology. America and obviously the USSR has some, but it's mainly an American thing. And there are other nations that have worked on their own missiles and they could get added into the game. But the problem is you have the issue of size and the issue of strength. With America, you have a constant progression of kind of anti-radiation missiles, whereas other nations, it's more bang, here is our thing, and we are going to use it. It reminds me of kind of the IRIST set of missiles, where it's like, okay, well, we should add them in because these nations added them, even though they're way more powerful than what we already have in the game. So they're going to have a bit of a problem with the balancing of these things. And as we've seen in the past, and as we will see going forward, is if some nations get certain mechanics and other nations don't get those mechanics, it causes a big rift in the game where people just go towards the nations which have all those mechanics. And right now, America is already insanely powerful in the game, and if you add even more strings to their bow, there is not really much point in playing many other things. And that just kind of makes me sad. So they're going to have to be a bit careful with this. I wonder if they'll limit it to a PvE thing because of the fact that it's, not something that you're going to see a huge amount in like the standard ground modes. You could definitely see it in air modes. And the other part of it, which is a bit more interesting to me, they've started adding a ton of animations to these radar machines and also these missiles which are attached to these radar machines. Will they actually fight back? Will they actually turn up and start firing their missiles everywhere? Because when it comes to War Thunder, a lot of the ground AI in air battles has been neutered. It doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really kind of set anything up. It doesn't really, fight. It just goes to a random point and randomly explodes. The BTRs fire, but they have no accuracy. There are certain maps which definitely do destroy you if you go to specific areas of them, such as certain columns and also in Enduring Confrontation. But overall, compared to what War Thunder used to be, I mean, there were stories of people just getting sniped out the air by AA when they were like 3 or 4 kilometers up, which was just completely ridiculous. Like, that should have never happened. But also, right now, the AI just feels like a point gathering thing instead of something that actually can fight back. So, for me, when I look at something like that, I just wonder, are they going to do anything to try and improve that? Are they going to actually make it fight back? But then, if they do that, if you don't have the anti-radiation missiles, or if you don't have the ways to counter them, and you're just like an superiority fighter, it's going to be rough, because there will be certain areas where you can't go to, and you'll just get bonked by them. So it's going to be really hard to sort this out, which is why I'm happy they're testing it first instead of just putting it straight in, because if they put it straight in, I think it would cause a lot of issues. And hopefully we'll get some tests next week. Maybe that will be what next week is. And then the week after, we'll get the battle pass, and then everything else from there. It's kind of wild. Like, there's a lot of things that are going on, and I'm here for all of them. I'm super happy to finally get to this stage of War Thunder where they're adding some really cool new mechanics. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tullio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.